myself again. But it's the only way you're ever gonna learn. You look back and it's all in the past. I'm dwelling on the thoughts I cannot say to you. If I don't say the words, then maybe it's not true. And it feels alright.
Good evening, welcome along to NUFC Matters. It's a new show, the Champions League show, which we're going to be doing throughout the season. And I thought with Gibbo and Super Mac having a couple of weeks off before the season starts, we would introduce this one now. And each week we'll have maybe have a panel on, or we'll have some special guests on. And I thought, because he's caused quite a bit of a stir on the Amigos from time to time, I would invite Manchester United fan Melly on Twitter at Roger Melly. He is a Manchester United fan, and when I say he's a fan, he goes home and away. I wouldn't have him on if he wasn't a true fan. Good evening, Melly. How are you?
Good evening, mate. Good to see you.
Good to see you too, mate, and great to have you on the show on this very first Champions League show. We're going to discuss the Champions League and the Champions League only tonight, and I guess the reason I asked you to come on is because you've really given an insight on a couple of occasions you've been on the Amigos into how things might have to change with Newcastle, and we've obviously been going through a little bit of an overhaul with our ticketing department. So rather than starting to talk about football, I'm going to talk about the ticketing side of things with the Champions League, because ultimately you've had to go through this as a supporter. You and the guys from your neck of the woods have travelled, down to home games, for the last 30 years on a bus as part of a group. And from your perspective, Champions League has almost become the norm for Manchester United, especially under Sir Alex Ferguson. What kind of things do Manchester United do with the tickets? Take us through it, because at the moment our season tickets are now starting to come out. Newcastle are entering the digital age. So we all have our season tickets on our phones now. The strict rules as to how many times you can exchange it. We all had to apply for our home tickets. So we've had to apply for our Champions League tickets. We've had to apply for our League Cup and FA Cup. So on the system now on the computer, you have to opt in. And if you opt in, then automatically Newcastle United will take the money out of the bank account when the home games are announced. It's as simple as that. So, for example, the first Champions League game the money's already been removed from our accounts for the very first group game. That's what they're going to do. What do Manchester United do for the home games, first of all?
Very similar, mate. Very similar. So you've got your season ticket, then you can opt in for FA Cup, League Cup, and Champions League. And again, it just gets debited as soon as they're drawn at home. You're debited that night. For the season ticket holders, you can then pass it on to members if you wanted to. You can transfer a ticket. It's basically to stop the touting, mainly. But I seen a post the other day there about about paying for membership and everybody having to apply. But you'll have a system where, say, I got both cup finals because I'd been at every game. And it'll be the same for you. If you opt in, you go to every game and you allocated 30,000, there might be 22,000 of you opt in. And then the other 8,000 will go on to general sale on the members. I don't know, how many season tickets are you sold? Do you know?
There's never really been an announcement as to how many season tickets have been sold. It's always been estimated that it would be around about 40,000, 36 to 40,000, but we've never had a true confirmation on that. We didn't from the last owner, and we certainly haven't from this one. And with the membership scheme that went on sale yesterday, there was no real benefit for season ticket holders to apply for it, because you get everything that the
get it with the season ticket.
Your season ticket. And the other side of it was, you couldn't go and buy another ticket. I mean, I agree with the way that they've done this, because ultimately what you had season ticket holders who were members as well, who, once the season ticket application had gone through for, the season ticket deadline had passed, and you could go and buy it. You buy your ticket for a particular game. If you were a member, you could then go and buy another one, and those tickets were getting sold on. So I agree with the system that they've made. I think the big problem is, and I know we'll be discussing it on the Migos tomorrow night with the guys, but I think the big problem is that what they should have done is they should have allowed maybe a hard copy of the season ticket this season, and gradually brought it in. Bring in the digital thing this season by all means, but still have a hard copy. Because what I'm hearing today, and again, this will be discussed tomorrow, is that a lot of people now who don't have smartphones, they've been told that they just need to go to the box office on the day and get a hard copy printed off, a paper copy printed off. Now, that sounds fine, but how many people are going to be doing that, Melly? It could be an absolute nightmare, that.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
I know, but everybody's got family, haven't they? You know, like, and you can print your tickets as well at home, you know. So my ticket, I can click on my ticket and then I can print it, and then you just go on and it scans in the same as what your digital ticket will, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So
well,
everybody's got somebody who'll be able to. And the thing is, and all, like, it's 2023, you know, everything's just moving on so fast, and because you've got the owners you've got, they're moving so fast. They're like light years ahead of England, you know, like, when it comes to computing and stuff. And they obviously, Man United's done this for a few years, mate. It's not a trouble. It's not a problem. I don't think you'll have any bother, and it'll stop the touts, because with the Champions League now, if somebody gets 4 tickets, and them tickets then become like so valuable, you know, and it cuts that out. It cuts it out. It stops people from like robbing fans, basically. There's quite a few occasions where you'll get people that saying that they've got tickets, take the money, they haven't even got tickets. So I think it's great, you know, like, it definitely is. We don't have any problems whatsoever. The odd time you might have to go into the ticket office here and there, but you're there, you've got your ticket there on your phone, you're in the game, you're away, job done. There's no messing about, you know. It's, you know, oh, have I got my ticket? You know, it's the way forward, mate.
Yeah, no, definitely. People don't like change. It's just the way it is. But ultimately, for me personally, yeah, I think it's a great idea. Away tickets and Melly, this is the thing that we discussed last time. 33,000 season ticket. Martin says, I'm not sure of the source, but I'm not doubting him. That could be the total. But yeah,
was that Martin Gallen?
Yeah,
he's just started supporting them not long ago, you know.
Oh, well, there you go. But he says 33,000.
He'll be screaming at the screen now.
He will be. 33,000, Martin. Cheers for that. I know exactly who he is now, yeah, and I think you could be right. If that's the case, that would tally up with what I'd said, between 38 and 40, 33. Yeah, okay. Away tickets, Melly. What do Manchester United do for away tickets?
Well, they're like gold dust away tickets. They're so you've got to have a season ticket for 3 years, and then you can start applying for them after that. And you got into a ballot where everybody that's basically in the same kind of bracket as you. Executive is a little bit different. You're in a different ballot, and you can apply straight. So if I was like buying an executive this year and I'd never been before, I'm straight into a different ballot. Normally you get 3,000, like you say. But they're like absolute gold dust. Them, like, it's so hard to get aways. And I think yous are gonna struggle this year. You know, like, because you've got 33,000 sold there, and I think 33,000 will opt into every single cup as well, because of the way that he's a driving, you know. So I think they've had to bring the system in for you, mate, because it's going to be chaos this year for Newcastle United fans. Like,
okay. Liam says ticket meeting at St James has said the only digital works, can't print and can't screenshot. Yeah, they're going to have to print them they're going to have to do a hard ticket. Then some people I've spoken to today say that they will have to go to the box office and they will print one off for them at the box office. So the problem is communication is. You know, there's communication far better than ever before at the club, but unfortunately on some of these issues, they've been a bit slow to get the answers out there. But look, Rome wasn't built in a day. We've got to get things right. Kevin says, Steve, the bottom line is, as a member, we've got a chance at tickets because no season ticket holder can buy. Also, I'm happy to support the club with my small amount of cash. Kevin, yeah, I think it's right that these people, these supporters get, you know, the opportunity to go. I think 100% true. I think they will eventually do something with away tickets as well. I think they'll change that. I don't think they'll take away the loyalty points, but I think they'll make it more difficult for people to buy a ticket and then pass it on, which is like what you said, isn't it, Melly? It's about stopping touts, isn't it? It's about stopping people buying an away ticket, not actually going to the game as well.
What's your system for away tickets like?
Away tickets, it basically is on a point system. So the more points you've got, the more chance you've got to get an away ticket. So essentially, the reward, the loyalty for the away tickets. So some people probably have around about 400, 500 points. Those people are going to be in a minimum who've gone to every single game over the last, say, 20 years. But yeah, it works its way down. So I think ultimately, Melly, it's a point system. How does Manchester United's work?
Just exactly what I just said there, mate. It's I think with your loyalty system, we used to have a loyalty pot where people were guaranteed tickets, but they've took that away, and it's basically one ballot for everybody that's got at least 2 or 3 years into them, like and applying. Same with aways, European aways, to get 1 point. So we do a similar system, but for European aways, it's if you've got 10 points, it'll go on general sale, say the 19th of May. For 10 points, like equal 9 points, 8 and 7 will go on sale the next day if they didn't sell everybody in the 10, and then it drops down to the final day where if it gets to 0 points, that's where everybody gets the chance to get that European away at 1 point and just build your points up. That's the system that they work, and that sounds similar to how you work your aways, but I don't know what they'll do, but I think the fairest way is a ballot, because those who have been gone for years, they'll always find tickets because they've been gone for that long that they'll always find tickets. I know one guy for NUFC, he's never missed an away yet. Every away ballot, I always see that he hasn't come out, but he's there. So they find a way, because obviously you've got friends in that circle. And getting back to the point that your friend made there, like, I don't know if I picked it up right, but he's right what he's saying. Like, so people who can't afford season tickets are going to get the chance to go into Newcastle and see them play, and nowadays, it's a lot of money to go and watch a football game. So people might want to go just to the odd game, and that's giving them the chance by doing this new digital ticket, what they're going to do, so I'm all for it.
Yeah, okay. I like coffee says if people have got 400, 500 points, how do newcomers start earning points? I think eventually they will change the system. I think they'll keep the point system, but I do think they may put tickets aside for people, younger people. I don't know, different people in the fan base. It'll be interesting to see what they do. They have had a fans meeting about it. They'll have taken away what they gained from that, and they'll probably come back with a proposal. For now, they want to get the home tickets right, but I don't think the away ticket change will be too far behind. Liam says clubs seem to be angling away at high percentage to loyalty, small percentage to ballot, and smaller percentage to overseas ballot. Okay, which is interesting, Liam. Lots of ideas, lots of people coming forward. Moving on from the ticket situation, how hard is it for a team to adapt? This is Newcastle's first, soiree into the Champions League for 20 odd years, Melly, and we did well last season. You came on and you admitted that yourself. You know what I mean? It was the only thing we didn't achieve was finishing above Manchester United, which we've never done in the Premier League. From my perspective, it's going to be interesting. We need to use the squad more. We need a bit of luck with injuries like everybody does. Probably need to bolster the squad still a bit more. We've made 2 good signings. We haven't really let anybody go, but we need another couple through the door, I'd say, before the 1st of September, just to bolster that squad, or hope that some of the youngsters come through. young Miley, and Elliot Anderson, both like performing well in the friendlies, potentially going to be part of the squad this year as well. I think Miley alongside Anderson. But yeah, for me, you don't really want to be relying on Elliot Anderson and Lewis Miley in the big Champions League nights. You need more experience. So how hard is it for people to adapt, Miley?
I was having the conversation with my father-in-law, and I was saying, Newcastle's had a great season, granted, absolutely fantastic. They do need to bring a few players in because, you're gone from playing 1 game a week, let's say, to playing a Wednesday night, and you might be in Roma, you might be in wherever, and then you're flying back for a Sunday kickoff, and it takes it out of the players. It's a great chance for the young players to come through in the cup runs, so you'll get to see, in the Carling Cup, what did we win again?
Yeah, you won the League Cup. Yeah, you
the Carabao. The Carabao Cup. You'll get the youngins out in there, and I don't know. It'll be difficult. It'll be difficult for your first time back, absolutely. But a few more add-ons, I think you can do it. Like you need to have the squad rotation. Look, let's say, let's be realistic, right? Depending on who you get in the groups and stuff. So say if you were to drop out of the Champions League, right, but finish 3rd, and you drop into the Europa League, you get the experience of both. You have a good cup run with the young'uns, in the Carabao Cup. I think your aim has to be to keep there next year for the Premier League, you need to be there or thereabouts. So, yes, have a run, see how it is and stuff. But then you've got the experience. The young ones have got the experience, because there'll be a few of them in there that haven't experienced this European nights and then the Premier League again on the weekend. So I just think you should be hopeful and maybe if you drop out down in the Europa League, get to the quarterfinals, same with the FA Cup, but focus on the league and make sure you're in Europe again next year. And then next year will be a total different ball game. You're going to attract players. You're in the Champions League. You have a project. So there's no reason why they shouldn't. I know the PIF and stuff, but I don't know. I like Eddie Howe. I would have had Eddie Howe at Man United 100% before Ten Hag come in, because I love what he did with Bournemouth. I know that they ended up getting relegated, but sometimes your hands tied. He's a young manager, and what he done with Newcastle last year is nothing short of a miracle.
Obviously watching the friendlies at the moment, Kevin says on last night's performance, which wasn't bad in any shape or form, it highlighted the lack of pace in the back line considering the age. Yeah, I agree. I think, and somebody just put in the chat, Ian put, we need a left back and we need a centre back. I mean, pace is a big thing in the Premier League. There's no doubt about that. Some of the European games, you come across teams and leagues which are slightly slower, but I do agree with that point that on that point that Kevin's made. Obviously, grouping is another important thing in the Champions League, Melly. Pot 4, Newcastle United find themselves in this season. Celtic potentially opposition, Real Sociedad, Union Berlin, Lens, potential inclusions. Via the qualifying stages could include Galatasaray and Young Boys. So when you hear those kind of names, getting bandied around with Newcastle, how do you think, watching the way Newcastle played last season, looking at them in the early pre-season, they've held their own against Villa and Chelsea, two teams which you would imagine are going to be up there challenging the European spots again this year. Do you think it's going to be a tough baptism of fire for Newcastle in pot 4?
Oh, it'll be tough. There's no doubt about it, but you can beat them. You aren't any idiots. You've proved that, like you finished 4th in the Premier League. It's the best league in the world. I don't know. I think you'll do all right, mate. I just obviously, like I say, it's gonna take it out of the players. No doubt about it. It'll take it out of them. Traveling there and traveling back, and it'll seem like they're just constantly playing football. I know people will say, "Wait, they're getting paid millions," but they're still humans at the end of the day, and they'll get tired, and they're not used to it, and they're away from their families, and it's a lot to take in. But you can beat them. St James's Park needs to be the fortress, doesn't it? And you need to be playing for draws away from home and winning at home. I think that's what you need to be aiming for, really. But you can beat them. Yeah,
and obviously, you support Manchester United. You're in pot 2 this year. Real Madrid, Juventus, Borussia Dortmund, Atletico Madrid, RB Leipzig, Porto, Inter, maybe even maybe an Arsenal. You've got some big teams in that in your side of the draw. I guess the question I want to ask you is, when you get that draw, do you want the easiest group possible, Melly? Which gives you like a nominally easier route to the knockout stages, or when you go into the Champions League, do you just want to play as many European giants as possible and hope you get a few big scalps? I mean, I know it's different for you guys because you've won it. You won the Champions League. From our perspective, it's Fairs Cup in '69. That's it. But what's your feeling as a Manchester United?
Me personally, and I'm not speaking for everybody here, but I want a nice easy group. I want to get into the knockouts and then play the big boys.
And I guess that's what Newcastle United fans will want. I mean, people in the chat let us know, but I would imagine you want to get through the group because it gives you the experience. It gives you those wonderful games at St James's Park, but also gives you the wonderful away days, doesn't it, Melly?
Oh, absolutely, mate. I mean, for you, the group games is just as good as the knockouts at this stage, but you cannot beat a knockout Champions League game against one of the big boys. It's honestly, the hairs that I have got stand up on the back of my neck. Still, like a 40-year-old man. I'm like my 6-year-old son when I walk in there and the music's on, and the Real Madrid and Barcelona last year, and we beat them. Anthony scoring, mate. It's just fantastic, So you want to get into there because the big boys is going to be in there 90% of the time. So we'll get a nice easy group, finish it, win it, get in the knockout stages, and then the fun begins, mate. Honestly, it's fantastic. I hope you get there, mate, just so you experience it. Like I mean, I know you have with Barcelona. You know, was it Australia scored a hat trick against them, or?
Yeah, I mean, we had
amazing times.
We had some amazing nights, and I mean, you know, you've got to remember that year as well where we got into the Champions League. We lost our first 3 group games, and then Newcastle, you know, just went wild in the final 3, and you know, it all culminated in winning the final game away in you know, Feyenoord 3-2, last kick of the game kind of thing, and Newcastle fans went going mental and into the group stages. So you know, we've had them. We've been to Milan and seen Shearer score. We've been to the new camp and you know, outplayed Barcelona. We'll beat them, you know, with Tino getting a hat trick. It's not a new thing for people of our age, but you know, it's the younger generation who are going to get an opportunity to experience the Champions League, you know, and I, you know, I'm over the moon for them, you know, that they finally got that opportunity to do it. I guess another question I'd like to ask you, as somebody who's you know, battle hardened in the Champions League and home and away fixtures, refereeing, is it any better in Europe than it is in the Premier League? Because I think we ultimately find in the Premier League, you know, that it's probably because it's under so much scrutiny, referees tend to make a lot of mistakes, and VAR at the moment still very much in an infancy, hasn't really helped any of the teams in the Premier League in time to time. What's the refereeing like? What should we be looking out for? What should we not be doing?
Well, everybody's gonna laugh at this, but we get nothing, mate, in Europe. Honestly, we're doing like, you know, I still remember Nanny getting sent off and it ruined what chances we were on course. It's just as bad, to be honest, in my opinion. Anyway, you know, like, you know, you're on about VAR and that, but I don't know, mate. They get away. You see, European teams, they're very tactical. You know, like they'll slow games down. You know, like for instance, let us think. Honestly, my memory is terrible, but Sevilla, you know, they came to Old Trafford and they slowed the game down. There were petty fouls. They were rolling for 100 yards, and the referee buys it because the referees are foreign, you know, like, and they buy it every time, and it's so obvious what's happening. But I don't know, you've just got to be wise to them, and you can only beat what's in front of you, can't you? So if you're going out and you score 2 goals and you defend, then you're going through. So it doesn't matter what ref decision. But it's tough. Like I find that they're really unfair. I know people will be saying, Man United fans, I'll say the same. But you know, if you watch the European games, you'll see they're not. I think Michael Oliver's the best referee in the world. I really do. And I know he's a Geordie, but he's fair, mate. He gives a foul if it's a foul, and he lets it play if he can let it play. The rest of them, I don't know. They put the uniform on and they turn into Superman. You know, it's worse in the European League, I think.
Okay, yeah, well, it was definitely not to a great standard when we were out there, but certainly letting fouls go, etc. Bill Burnett says, yeah, Nani being sent off was a disgrace. I remember it well. And I Like Copy says, we'll see Murphinho score a bicycle volley at the Bernabeu, and remember this. Yeah, we'll see. And your son's getting a bit of praise from John, who organises the Peter Beardsley Soccer School. He says, your youngin's done very well at the soccer school this week.
Hey, mate, can I just give a shout out to John and Peter and just say, like, it's an absolutely amazing camp that they've got. Peter's so good with the kids, mate. He's and John as well, you know, like, what a gentleman, mate. You don't get many people like him anymore, honestly. So, yeah. Peter Beardsley Soccer School, if you've got a band in the area, search him up because you'll not regret it. He's absolutely fantastic. That's how professionals should be, in my opinion.
Martin suggesting me and you get buy one, get one free on hair transplants. Thanks, Martin, for that.
Tell him to send a photo, Steve. He needs one now.
Thanks, Martin. He's a Man U fan complaining about diving and whinging, says Barry. Barry did have a question earlier on. I'm just going to find it here. He says, oh, no, it was a statement. He says, can you tell Harry Maguire to bugger off? We don't want him. I'm sick of hearing we're trying to buy the knacker. Yeah, Newcastle been linked with Harry Maguire and Scott McTominay, I guess, in the last 4 or 5 months, haven't they? And neither I can see coming to Newcastle. I can't see Harry Maguire coming to Newcastle. I'd be very surprised. I was surprised to see him having the captaincy removed from him, and obviously Manchester United's managers decided to do that. I mean, Maguire, McTominay, where do you think they'll end up? Do you think they'll stay? Do you think they'll go?
I think Maguire gets or criticised, mate. I think because he's at Man United, he came with the price tag that he did. You watch him for England, he's fantastic. I think he'll get into most Premier League clubs. He's an absolutely fantastic player. He's just, I don't know, when the pressure's on, he seems to be making mistakes. But I don't know, mate. You know, if Newcastle buy him, you could do a lot worse. Like, you really could. And McTominay as well. I'd like to see Man United keep him. He's very hitty missy. He's either absolutely fantastic or he's not on the ball, which is, I think, it's the same as a workman, right? If you're a painter and you're going to work and you're working like and you're working with other painters who aren't really that good, like, then you'll match the standard. But of late, we've started playing again. I've been watching with pre-season. We've been absolutely, I'm not just saying this, it's looked really good. I've never seen Man United playing like this for a long time. Fluent, pressing. It's so quick from the back to the front. And now we got beat 2-0 off Real Madrid last night. But, mate, honest, I think if Harry Maguire stays and McTominay stays with the players that we're bringing in, I think you'll see different players. And honestly, I know people are calling Maguire, but if Newcastle did go in for him, it's a cracking signing, mate. It really is. Look at him for England.
Is he not a bit slow, though? You know, I mean, and the problem is pace in our back line. I think we do lack pace. We've got Dan Burn, we've got Botman, we've got Shaw. You know, none of them are blessed with pace. Kieran Trippier's, you know, in the 30s. You know, we need another left back, I think, for certain. Dan Burn was fantastic last year, but we do need somebody. We do need a bit of pace. We're lacking in pace, and I think it does show on occasions. You know, Villa last season ripped us apart with their pace. Look, it'll be interesting to see, but I just get the impression he's very, very similar to what we've got.
Maybe it's mate, but I rate Maguire. I do. I rate Harry Maguire. He's had a hard time at Old Trafford.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like, people don't like to admit it, but Manchester United are still everybody's cup final. The pressure's on. You know, everybody comes to Old Trafford and they want to take that victory away still. Mm-hmm. So I don't know, mate. I think he's had a hard time. I think he needs to leave. He's been stripped of the captaincy, which was coming because he's not playing and he's not influencing on the pitch. Bruno's took it. Yeah, I agree with that. Definitely. It might actually take a little bit of pressure off him. But if I was Harry, I would probably leave and I'd be looking for a top 6 club in the Premier League.
Mm-hmm. It just, Bob, yeah, 5th place. I can't remember whether it's this season or next season. I'd have to Google it, but I think it might be the season after the 5th finish. It could be this season. If anybody in the chat has a chance to Google it, let us know. Maguire similar to Lascelles, in my opinion, says I like coffee. It's not a bad comparison. Good to see Melly respecting players and not just reeling off the cliched Maguire bashing, says Blue Rhythm Boy, who also asked another question. How come Melly is a Manchester United fan being from the Northeast? Not a criticism, just generally interested to know. Thanks, Steve.
I wish I had a quid for every time I got asked this. I wouldn't have to work. But like I said on a previous show, there was an old man called Ian Hedges. When I was younger, I was a little bit of a rebel. I living in Lymouth, and Ian took us under his wing, and he was a Man United fan. It was the first stadium I went to, and then on the Berwick supporters branch, and gone ever since. So he took us under his wing, and that was it. I just fell in love from that day. And then the banter starts at school because everybody sports Newcastle, and I'm a little cheeky devil, so I loved the banter. And I just, you know, that was it. And I've never looked back. But I'm a fan that's travelled for 30 years, home and away. Well, not away, but home definitely, and more so away in the last few years. Now that I'm stable and, you know, I've got a good job and stuff. I still like to see all the Northeast teams do well, but Man United's my team, like.
Yeah, well, there you go. There's the answer, Blue Rhythm Boy. Barry Hogan says, having seen recent Champions League opponents where you say Newcastle are on par with some of them, Melly. I mean, I asked you the question earlier, do you think Newcastle would hold their own? You said yes. You know, you've seen a lot of these Champions League teams at St James's Park. You know, are Newcastle on par with them? You said we're finished 4th. I would imagine you'd
absolutely, mate.
We are.
Absolutely. There's no doubt about it. It's you know, you've got your hierarchies, like your Bayern Munich's, your Real Madrid's, your Barcelona's, your Man United's. But apart from that, it's a pretty level playing field. You know, you've got to remember we're playing in the best league in the world, and I firmly believe that. You know, So the other leagues, they're nowhere near as good as our Premier. So if you can finish fourth in the Premier League, then you can beat the majority of the teams in the other leagues. You know, it's just trying to adapt to that difference in your weekday. You know, so where you have a match on a Sunday, you might play on a Tuesday and a Saturday, or a Wednesday and a Sunday, or you know, it's adapting to that and having a big enough squad where you can rotate and not look like you're, do you know what I mean, weaker.
Yeah.
So if you can get that balance, then you'll be laughing.
Alan McKenzie says Toon signed 16-year-old striker Casey Worcester from Southend. Another one going into the academy, which is good to see. Newcastle working on both fronts, trying to get the first team boosted and try to get the youngsters in, which is great. And I guess the first question that I was asked in the chat tonight was, if you're good enough, you're old enough, discuss from the mighty win. And I guess that's in reference to the lads I mentioned earlier, Miley and Anderson. You know, both young players, both come through the academy, both now training and playing with the first team. Miley has looked outstanding pre-season. Anderson has looked better than he was last year. So the question for mighty win is, if you're good enough, are you old enough, Miley? And I would say, yeah.
With the answer to that's Wayne Rooney, isn't it?
Yeah, brilliant, yeah.
That's the answer to that. You know, he was just a Ben scoring a hat-trick in the Champions League. You're old enough, you're good enough. It's as simple as that. I believe, anyway. But they've gone through the ranks. These kids haven't just turned up in Newcastle one day and they were quite good and they've signed them. They've been there since they were like, they've got routine. You know, most of them's probably been living with carers, you know, like who look after them while they're up here, or, you know, so the regime, the routine. So when they get to 16, 17, they're ready in their head. They're ready to go. It's just whether or not the manager sees them fit. And I mean, I want to bring this up and I'll get slated, but, you know, if you look at Sunderland, you know, where Sunderland finished last season, you had never seen that at the beginning of the year. They brought a load of young'uns in and they just gelled and they nearly got into the final. You know, like they were so close. So if they're old enough, they're definitely good enough to get them in.
Yeah, Martin says, this season I'd love some big names in group stages and go all out. If we drop into Europa, then so be it. Let's get some experience this season and hopefully a few signings next season and push on. Yeah, Rome wasn't built in a day, Martin. I agree, mate, 100% with you. It's a bit different in the pre-season than the heat of the Premier League or Champions League, though, which is true, Todd.
He just wants the big games, mate, so he can get his clients in and get bigger, what do you call it, man?
Aye, that's it. I understand. Mark Preston says, can you ask Melly, can you choose a seat in the ballot at Manchester United?
Steve, sorry, I've just had to turn that off, mate. I thought I'd turn disturb off a hand.
No worries, mate. So Mark Preston says, can you ask Melly, can you choose a seat in the ballot when you're successful at Manchester United?
Nah.
Okay. So I'm not sure whether the situation with Newcastle is or isn't. Mozzer, I think, mentioned something in the chat earlier. She might drop us a message back in.
In the ballot for the away games, mate. Aye.
For the home games.
You see, I'm not in the ballot for the home games. I've got my season tickets, so I couldn't comment on that, to be honest.
Yeah.
But I suppose you probably could. Like, you would get a seat map up. Once you get through, we've got a queuing system.
Yeah.
So once to go on sale, 9 o'clock, you log on to manunited.com. And then you'll enter a queue. You know, you might be fourth or you might be 26,000. Once you get in, I'm pretty sure they've got the seat map and then you can pick what's left.
Okay. Well, I think that's the way it works anyway. Mozelle will probably tell us anyway. She's got a membership, so she might be able to let us know. We drew at Old Trafford and won at St James's Park, Melly, remember, says Bill. Yes, we did. Correct.
I didn't have much success last year until the final.
We didn't win the cup. The mighty win says it'll be 5th place, 24-25, provided all the English teams don't fail to get out of their groups and German or Italian teams don't all get through to the quarterfinals. Thank you for explaining that. Blue Rhythm Boy says, is being in the Champions League helpful for scouting, Melly? I know someone did well against Fergie. He'd often want to sign them.
Oh, absolutely. You know, but I think nowadays the scouts, they're all over anyway, aren't they? They'll have at least 5 or 6 scouts in different parts of Europe. So I suppose it will help for scouting, but it definitely helps you for getting players in because these top players, they want to play in the Champions League. I put a post out the other day, you know, like with Saudi Arabia. I think it'll probably be a good thing because all of the money grabbers are gonna go over there, and everybody that wants to play football for passion and to win stuff is gonna remain in Europe, aren't they? They're gonna want to stay in the Premier League and stuff and fight for the biggest prizes. So I don't know. I can see a massive change in the market coming because there's a lot of if Mbappe goes, it's a game changer. That like.
Yeah, it doesn't look like he's going to go to Saudi. He doesn't even want to talk to them. But that will be interesting to see if Mbappe does go. Harry Kane as well, another big potential move. Certainly wouldn't move to the Premier League. I think he would move out the country. I've noticed PSG are now saying that they would be interested and have a feeling that they might be able to attract Harry Kane. So that'll be interesting to see. Does anyone remember where the UEFA tickets were last time? Someone said buy 1892 if so I'll be livid when they move us. I don't know, mate. I don't know. Go on, Melly, were you going to say something?
Harry Kane, I think he's stupid if he leaves. Like England, he's on the verge of obviously he'll want him again because he's going to potentially break Alan Shearer's record, but he needs to win a domestic trophy. Like in Britain, he needs to come to Man United. I know, but he does. If he comes to Man United, we are challenging next year. But that's all we're missing is a goal scorer, an out and out goal scorer. It'd be stupid if he goes to France or Italy or Germany. He's done the hard work. He's in his prime, really. What is he, 29?
He could go away and come back.
I just wouldn't date. I wouldn't date. Like, what? You might go to Bayern Munich and win a German title, or what's that going to do for him? Absolutely nothing. I don't think. He needs to be in England, and he needs a few Premier Leagues under his wing, and he needs to break the record because no doubt about it, he's absolutely, he's fantastic. He's fantastic, and he'll spoil himself if he goes abroad. He'll be forgotten in no time.
I mean, the Shearer record, it's something to cling on to, for Alan, definitely. But ultimately, he doesn't hold the record for me in the top flight. Football didn't start with the Premier League. Football started with the Football League. And, Jimmy Greaves holds the record. 357 goals is the record. Steve Bloomer, 314 goals. Dixie Dean, 310. Gordon Hodgson, 288. And Alan Shearer, 283. So those are the actual figures for me. So I'm sure that there'll be a bit of stick given if Alan does lose it, and he'd be a bit disappointed for losing the Premier League record. But I always got to pay.
Records are there to be broken, though, aren't they?
Of course they are, and
it's always going to happen.
But you've got to pay a tribute to Jimmy Greaves. He's like a forgotten man. He never gets mentioned when that happens. So I always like to mention that. Okay, Mark Byers, who had a fantastic time at the game yesterday in Atlanta. Great to see pictures of you and the band meeting so many people, including Jimmy. I will show them on Friday. He says, a friendly question for you both. Who will finish higher in the Premier League next season? Well, rather than saying that, because that puts us against each other, I'm going to say that I think Newcastle United, and based on the squad as it is now, and based on the fact that we've signed Harvey Barnes and we've signed Tonali, who are both first teamers, I am going to predict Newcastle United to finish fourth again.
Bold statement.
That's my prediction. Fourth. So, Melly, where do you think Manchester United will finish this season?
I would love to say we're going to challenge. I really would, but we need a striker. But look, I'll be happy. I'm not going to say I'll be happy because I wouldn't be. We want to be challenging, Probably second, third. I think this year's going to be a lot different. I think Liverpool's going to be back on track. Chelsea's got a load of young'uns there who they've brought in, some of the world's best. If Pochettino can get them playing, they're back. You've got Arsenal, obviously. They found their form. Can they pick it back up? I think so. And obviously City. And it's going to be I'm going to go out on a limb and say this is going to be the best Premier League season since the creation. I think it's going to be so close. I don't think anybody's going to run away with it. City's lost a lot of players. They've lost a lot of ballers, and they've lost some strength from the back. So they're going to have to bring people in. Will they adapt to the Premier League? I don't know. It's going to be a good league. I'm going to say second for United. I'm not going to say who's going to win it, though, because I think it's going to be really close.
Best ever Premier League season. That's a bold statement as well. So we will see. On Twitter, never a good benchmark for opinions of supporters like ourselves, Melly, to be honest. But it's a medium we have to use, and it's a medium that we both use. So we do see banter backwards and forwards. And because Newcastle have had, a really good season, finished fourth, qualified for the Champions League, got to the Carabao Cup, losing, of course, to your team. The rivalry has been mentioned by quite a few people. Do you see Newcastle as a rival, Melly?
Me personally, I've always seen Newcastle as a rival, even when you've been bottom half and I'm top half. That's the one game that I want to win, Steve. But no, majority United fans, they don't see Newcastle as a rival. I think you want Sunderland back up, mate. And like a lot of people probably disagree, but you want Sunderland up. That's your rival. That's your Derby Day. Like many moons ago, Derby Day was absolutely fantastic in my area. They could potentially be another sleeping giant. If somebody wanted to come in and buy them like they did you, and then you've got two massive clubs in the area. But no, I don't think majority of United fans see Newcastle as a rival, but me, massive, they're my biggest rival.
We are stronger, fitter, better. There's no reason we can't do better, says Ian. I agree, Melly. I think it'll be the most competitive season for many a year, says Mark. Blue Rhythm Boy says, do fans of Manchester United find Ten Hag a likeable character? I can't get away with him as a Newcastle fan. Sorry, Melly.
He's not really in the public eye, is he? He does what he needs to do. He does his interviews and then he's away. But in general, he is. He's quite a nice guy. You often see him in the local areas of Manchester riding around on his bike, still thinking he's in Ajax, having cups of teas and coffees and stuff. So he is grounded. But I just don't think he gives the press what they want. I think he does his bare minimum and he's away. So people will always have an opinion on that. It's like anything. If you put your head above the parapet, you'll get some people will be watching this saying that they like with, some people will be watching this saying that they hate with. It's just, that's the way it is, But Ten Hag in general seems to be quite a nice guy and very intelligent as well.
Mm-hmm. Dan says Melly's crack's decent when Keith isn't barking at him. Playing more games is a big thing as well. Yeah, you're right there, Mark. Ian, good evening, says, question for Melly. How can Manchester United keep splashing the cash after just being fined for breaking financial fair play? I've got to be honest, it's the three letters.
Unbelievable.
It's the three letters I can't stand, Melly. FFP. It's it's the one thing that soured Newcastle's takeover, and Newcastle have to abide by the rules like everybody else does, but even more so because our commercial revenue's been horrendous. I guess that's the answer, isn't it? The commercial revenue.
The answer, mate.
United
commercial revenue. They've got more sponsors than what. The commercial revenue is unbelievable. That they're one of them. In fact, I think they're the second biggest club in the world for revenue, only behind. Is it Barcelona?
Yeah.
So that's where it comes. I mean, they're saying that they cannot buy. They've got enough to buy one more player, maybe, but then they're going to have departures. So that's where I think Fred and McTominay and Maguire are probably going to leave the club fairly soon because they need a striker. But it looks like Amrabat, the Bali kid for Morocco, it looks like he's potentially coming in as well. Which looks closer than Highland. So it all comes from revenue. And another thing about the tickets, Steve, like United, and this is why we hate the Glazers, because like if anybody at United, you can hand your ticket back to the club. So even though you've opted in, you can then hand your ticket back to the club, who will then resell it. And the Glazers resell normal tickets in the normal stands for like 700-800 quid a ticket and say that they're corporate. And what they'll do is they'll allow you to go down the stairs and into a bar where you get glass bottles and stuff like that. And that's how they get away with it, So, and people buy it because it's Man United and they want to be, they just want to be there. And there's plenty of money floating about. So they pay it, and so they're getting rid of touts by going digital, but they're becoming the biggest tout. And it's clear to see if you just search NUFC, you'll see any amount of times how, like even for friendlies, man, like they're wanting 400 quid for a seat that's normally 28 quid. Scandalous, honestly.
Do you think this is going to see the end of financial fair play? I mean, I watched a documentary which was well publicised on YouTube about Manchester City, and that case seems to be getting kicked down the road. Everton, we know, are going to be, there's going to be a judge and jury in October. We'll find out more about that case. But do you genuinely think that they're going to have to think of something different, because that really just doesn't seem to be washing, does it? The financial fair play. People always seem to find a way around these things.
Of course, look at Todd Bowley, very clever man. Like he bought all them players, and there might have been 100 million, but then he's paying for them over 8 years, so it's only 10 million a year. That's 10 million off the fair play. So there's ways around it. So they're gonna have to abolish it, because people will always find ways of. You're dealing with some of the cleverest people in the world, man. These are multi-billionaires, and you've got, no disrespect to them, but you've got somebody in the Premier League or in the European making these rules up, who are not multi-billionaire. You don't become a multi-billionaire through being stupid. So they're going to have to come up with a compromise sooner rather than later, because they'll always find loopholes. They'll get around it. They always will.
Yeah, they always do. And I think it's the death of financial fair play. Gary Neville has the best take on financial fair play. Let rich owners invest as long as they guarantee the money, he says. And the Glazer situation, I can't see it ending anytime soon. I've got to be perfectly honest. Owen says, I value Melly's opinion. Like, not a bad player either. Up the wood, Owen. Good crack, lads. As a Macam, enjoying the channel. Thank you, Owen. Ian says, Chelsea have sold 200 million of players this season. Who have Man U sold?
Anybody? I don't think. De Gea's left on a free with Anthony Elanga, 15 million. Anybody that stands out, to be fair, but obviously they'll be dealing on the line. They'll know what they can and cannot spend. But you see, Chelsea sold 200 million pounds worth of players this season. Sorry, I'm just trying to read that.
Yeah, 200 million.
Aye. Is that just now? Or
that must be in this window. They've got rid of 200 million pounds worth of players.
Well, they bought the players in the last window, didn't they? So
yeah. And they gave them 8-year contracts as well. This is what I mean. There's so many ways around, around financial fair play. But
then they're selling them
the commercial revenue as well, which Newcastle didn't have.
The thing is, like when Newcastle, like, I'm not saying it's going to happen, but this could happen. They could buy a player, and then they could sell Dan Burn to Al Ettifaq, or whatever you call them, for 40 million. Yeah. He might be only worth 4 million, but they can do that because they own that club. So then there's 40 million gone out. So the revenue, like, there's always going to be ways and means, man. Like I say, you're dealing with very clever people here.
Yeah, Brighton have rejected a bid worth 80 million from Chelsea for midfielder Caicedo. That's breaking news tonight. Abram Glazer looks a bit like the Batman villain, the Penguin. Says, I like coffee. Blue Rhythm Boys as Elanga left. Looked a player, in my opinion. Had a couple of other questions. John says, will Maguire be a Manchester United player this season? If not, where do you think he'll end up?
I've just said before, I think he should be looking for the top 6 club. I don't think he'll go abroad. He's a Premier League player. Spurs, maybe. Spurs would be a good outfit for him.
Okay, well then.
But he's a northern kid, so I wouldn't rule Newcastle out. Like, he's just from Sheffield.
Yeah.
So
it'll be interesting. It depends. I have a feeling Newcastle will persevere with what they've got at the back. Because they've got a very good, strong midfield. They've got a good goalkeeper. They've got good defenders. May get caught for pace, but you can tactically work around that. It'll be interesting. Newcastle won't be starting. If Newcastle, don't start with the same back four, I'll be very surprised.
Fair enough, but if you had Maguire as a backup and one of them got injured and he come on, would you be totally despondent?
No, definitely not. I don't not rate him. I'm worried about the pace in our team. I'm not, I wouldn't say that Maguire would be a bad signing at all. If we could get him for the right money, I'd question whether we could pay his wages. He'd have to take a hell of a wage cut from what he's on at Manchester United. But that's all to be, that would all be discussed. Mighty Win says Sunderland's a massive club. Discuss. I've got to be honest. I agree with Melly, and I know some people do and some people don't. But I would like to see Sunderland, back in the Premiership alongside Newcastle and below Newcastle, of course, and bring the derbies back. I do miss them, but I know that always splits the chat, and I always know it splits the fan base. Blue Rhythm Boy, who's asked a lot of questions tonight, and they've all been good. Does Melly think Manchester United will be sold in the next 2 years?
Yeah.
You do?
I think they're sold now. I think it's done deal. It's just they've got that many shareholders. There's so many people who's getting a cut of the deal. I think Sheikh Jazim's he's bought the club already, but it's just so political. I don't know if that's the right word. With so many shareholders and the debt, it's almost £1 billion worth of debt. So there's a lot to go through, which is why I think we're buying players, because if you look, like they'll splash out. They bought Anthony, they bought Sancho the year before, but they've never done what they've done this year, where like we've gone for a player. It hasn't really been out there, and they've brought him in. They've got a Nana, and now they're going for, oh Jesus, said his name before, man, Amrabat, and they've got Mason Mount. It's never been known to like 3 or 4 players of the same amount, like 60 millions, 50, 60 millions. I think the deal's done, and I think the transfers that are happening through the new owner. I could be a million miles wrong, but we just want them out of the club, and people say, why do you want them out of the club? They spend fortunes, but they're just leeches, and I mean leeches. And I know like this is gonna go down like a lead's balloon, but Mike Ashley left Hughes lot with no debt. Zilch. We're almost up to £1 billion worth of debt. These people are taking 100 million in dividends every 3 to 4 months, and they're not putting no back in the club. We're creating. We could sit as a club on our own with no owners and generate our own revenue and buy decent players. We'd even need the Glazers to do that. Everybody thinks they're buying all these players. They're not. It's all the money coming in from the sponsorship. Old Trafford you can go to Old Trafford on a Tuesday afternoon, and there'll be at least 1,000 people walking about. Well, maybe 500 people walking about, or in cars, or the car park's full. It's massive. It's huge. They're a massive tourist attraction. So we don't need the Glazers, and all they've done is they've been able to buy a club with a bank loan. You couldn't do that today. I couldn't go and buy, say, carpets from my shop and say, like, I'll get them and I'll borrow the money off him to pay you weekly. It just doesn't happen. But they have been allowed to come into Britain, buy the biggest club in Britain off a bank loan and never invest a penny. It's honestly, it's so frustrating. I just wish they were gone. I wish they were, and go and invest in NBA or BS, whatever you wanted to invest in, but just get out of a club.
Yeah, Muzza says if we had another hour, we could discuss what Cashley left us with. Yeah, I mean, I know you say he didn't leave us with debt, and I've got to be honest. I said that as soon as he left, but it was just the fact that once we looked into what he did leave us with, oh dear me, how no commercial revenue coming in, making financial fair play massively difficult, and there's lots of little things, lots of little caveats which were attached to the deal, which the new owners accepted and are stifling Newcastle's progress, shall we say. But last few questions we'll take. Would you take Callum Wilson at Manchester United, Melly? Says Blue Boy.
He's a little bit injury prone, isn't he? But he finds the back of the net, and that's what you need, people who can score in the Premier League. So yeah, I would.
I like Coffee says all these millions and billions of pounds involved in football makes my jaw drop. Yeah, I think when we saw the potential wages of Mbappe going to Saudi Arabia, I think all of our jaws dropped. But that is of course not going to happen. Kevin says I've got to say Manchester United fans at times are very blinded. They slated us for Saudi owners, yet Manchester United have been sponsored for years from Saudi. Can you please educate them? He says.
Look, like I've just said before, you're always going to split opinions with whatever happens. So a lot of people might have been calling you, but a lot of people weren't calling you. Like it is what it is. Football was like money's ruined football, and it ruined football years ago. So we've just got to get on the train and ride it, haven't we, and enjoy it.
Yeah, Dan, the teams know what to expect. We'll get more injuries because of the extra games. We need more speed at the back. All the goals these last few games have come from running through behind. Kevin, I saw your point earlier, said I was wrong about this back four getting us through this season. it's very hard to judge in pre-season. Pre-season's pre-season. Eddie Howe set up with 3 at the back in the first game. He's not playing. He played near enough of a full team last night, but there was still a couple of youngsters in there and lots of changes. You're playing in 85-degree heat. There's a lot of things to take into consideration. And Eddie Howe said last night after the game as well that the lads have worked very hard, a lot harder than they would before a Premier League game. So, I'm going to play devil's advocate with you and say, Kevin, that, I still think this back four could get us through, certainly till January, when a new transfer window opens and Newcastle United will then be back at the table, potentially to bring in a defender. I don't think they're going to bust a gut to bring somebody in, but they may do. You just don't know. Tierney's been linked with Newcastle on a regular basis, and Livramento has been linked on a regular basis. My money would be on one of those coming in before September the 1st. That would give you your left back, somebody with a bit more pace, somebody who likes to bomb up and down the left-hand side. So for me, I do think ultimately we will get somebody else in. Will we get a centre-half? I'm not sure. It's a priority, maybe January. Why are people acting like our back five didn't just have the best defensive record in the league? Dan, very good point. Mark also says 30 million for ASM getting scrutinised as fair market value with 50 million for Neves. Not a peep said. Yeah, I've got to be honest as well. That really has annoyed me. That people are even trying to stir up bother with Newcastle selling players to Saudi. Melly, what do you think about that? If Newcastle sell ASM to the Saudi club,
30 million for ASM, it's a bargain.
Do you disagree with Newcastle being allowed to sell to Saudi though? The fact that PIF own the club.
Why not? Likely. Jesus, it's gonna happen. Like I say, it's gonna happen. Just what will be, mate, won't it? It's a free for all. So people are just scared. There's no doubt about it. I'm scared of what Newcastle could become because obviously I don't want you to be ever be better than us. Do you know what I mean? I've had for all these years of like gloating. I don't want Newcastle, but is there a sitting giant who could potentially, you could be a lot bigger than what City are because the money you've got is unbelievable. So what will be. You've just got to keep up. You've got to keep up, and you've got to. Teams will always have that. The thing is, with Newcastle, it's Newcastle. A lot of posh footballers, good football. They like to be in London. They like to be in the city. Man United struggle with that, man. They're like people don't want to be in Manchester and Newcastle. They want to be in London. So when they finish the game, so that's the only thing that you'll struggle with. So no, I didn't. To answer your question, Steve, you should be allowed to sell. Everybody should just do what you want, like you say. Like if they're going to put the money in, they're going to put the money in. Doesn't matter who, because ultimately, in the end, everybody's going to be owned by the Saudis. They'll take over completely.
Yeah,
this is where the figures is. This is where the money is. Sky didn't even broadcast Spain games anymore. They're on about putting it's coming where you'll be able to buy season tickets for your own team. So there'll be cameras at every single ground, every game. And you'll buy a season ticket at home and you'll be able to watch your team on telly because everybody wants to watch the Premier League. When we play in the Champions League, the viewings they get compared to when, say, Inter and Juventus play are just ridiculously the English Premier League is always going to generate a lot of money. So just let it go. Jump on the train and just enjoy the ride.
Last question for tonight, because we only do an hour on these shows, as you know. Cleedon Mags, good evening. Nice to see new faces in the chat. If Melly could have one player from Newcastle United, which one would it be?
Bruno.
There you go. Simple answer.
Although Joe Linton's a close second.
Yeah, God, you would never have thought anybody would have said that years ago. But Melly, been an absolute pleasure. I knew it would be.
Thanks for having us, mate.
I knew it would be. I'm sure we'll get you back on at some point. The Champions League show is going to be a bit different. We're going to have fans on from other clubs, get some of our regular people on as well to talk Champions League. And obviously, we'll be following our progress throughout the Champions League group stages when they kick off, when the season starts. But for now, Melly, best of luck, mate.
Aye, good luck.
Take care, mate. Bye-bye.
Take care, mate. See you later.
Big thanks to all our sponsors. Skips and Bins, telephone 0800 25 45 25 3. Email inquiries at skipsandbins.com. Website skipsandbins.com. Easy contract free and pay-as-you-go waste collection. Thanks also to Mr. Vicky Sauces, handmade in Cumbria. If you want to order some, then you can go to their website, mrvickies.co.uk, or telephone 01768 210 102. Thanks also to New Workwear. They were set up in 2018 and they are an agile and dedicated workwear provider. You can find them at their website, newworkwear.com. Thanks to Media Arts as well for all the help with the video side of things. If you want to subscribe to the channel, hit the subscribe button under this video. Hit the thumb up to like the video and click share to share to your other social media. We're also available as a podcast on your podcast providers such as iTunes and Spotify. If you'd like to take out a cult membership, which means you get a cup, a pen, a membership card, a scarf, and entry into the monthly draw, then put your smartphone over this QR code now. It'll take you straight to the site. You can set up and pay a one-off fee of £25. Alternatively, go to nufcmatters.com and check for membership. If you're a subscriber, you can apply for a free car sticker. Just email john@nufcmatters.com to claim yours today. The new Shearer raffle is up and running. 150 tickets, £1 a ticket to win a limited edition Alan Shearer signed ball. Enter now at nufcmatters.com. We've got a couple of events coming up. Newcastle United question and answer live with Liam Kennedy, Jordan Cronin and Dominic Skerr from Newcastle World and the Shields Gazette in association with NUFC Matters takes place at the Tyneside Irish Centre 11th of August at 7 p.m. and tickets are a £5. The Christmas event will be with Frank Clark and John Gibson, Thursday, December the 7th at the Tyneside Irish Centre. Tickets are £15 from nufcmatters.com. And Waddle, Keegan and Beardsley, the class of 84, with special guests, takes place at the Tyne Theatre and Opera House on Westcott Road in Newcastle on Thursday, January the 25th. Tickets are available direct from the theatre, 0844 24 91 000, or go to the website for further details. And don't forget, starting on the 7th of August, you will be able to hear myself, Steve Wraith, on the Northeast Footy Breakfast. This comes to you in association with the Toon Radio, 7 o'clock till 9 o'clock, 5 days a week. Check out the Facebook for more details. We still do 7 NUFC Matters show a week for free. But if you want to help support NUFC Matters, then there are a few ways of doing it. Hit the like button on each live broadcast and video. This helps the channel grow. Hit the subscribe button and select the all notifications bell so you don't miss a single show. If you want to help us financially, then you can join the channel using this button with the membership starting at $1.99 a month. Or you can drop us a donation in the chat using a super sticker. We're also looking for sponsors. If you'd like your brand advertised on the flyers for the show and featured during the ad break, then email john@nufcmatters.com to arrange today.